maximizing Q1 of any year in our industry is so critically important, and you need to make sure that you have a plan to do so, because it almost feels to me like this is the Black Friday season of our industry. Don't use Q1 to just plan and prepare for Q2. Don't do that. Use Q1 to go out there and take aggressive, relentless action towards your goals with a plan to make sure that you actually come out of Q1 with potentially even one of your most profitable months of the year, as opposed to just starting to tinker with a plan and hope that Q2 will pick up. Your Q2 will look like your Q1, and Q3 will look like your Q2, and you'll be right back at the end of a year again wondering why you didn't hit your goals. So let's change that. How are we going to change that? Hey, welcome back to the Expansion Podcast. Great to have you here. If you're listening to this as soon as I uploaded, then we are in January of 2026. If you're listening to this anytime after that, this will still be relevant, although we are going to focus on Q1 and how I plan and prepare to make sure I hit my goals and absolutely smash it in the year we're just going into. And you could take the exercises that I'm going to run you through in this episode, you could take that to Q2, Q3, Q4. So it's going to be relevant no matter when you're listening to this. I just took my clients in my momentum and my expansion coaching groups. I just took these clients through this exact set of exercises that I'm going to share with you right now. The only difference is we actually then do it live on the call there, and we give feedback and we actually make the plan together. But this is going to be insanely valuable for you, I hope, because we're going to talk about how you can make sure that you are set up for success and have the clearest path to hit those goals. So let's dive straight in. The first thing I want to touch on is that you need to understand that maximizing Q1 of any year in our industry is so critically important, and you need to make sure that you have a plan to do so, because it almost feels to me like this is the Black Friday season of our industry. If you think about Black Friday as it is, right now in November, used to be a day, turned into a few days, turned into a week. Some companies use that as a whole month to do sales. But that Black Friday season, it is a buying frenzy. It is a bloodbath of buyers. However, it is for a very particular type of buyer. It is for people that want to buy low ticket stuff, e-commerce stuff. They're looking for discounts and coupons and all sorts of stuff like that. So yes, it's a buying frenzy, but actually I'd go as far to say it's harder for coaching businesses like mine, or service providers, or high ticket premium priced stuff. Black Friday is a harder season. We look at Q1, we look at January, where you've got the new year, new me people that are starting to do their New Year's resolutions. Then you move into February, where the people that had those resolutions are realizing that they're not quite hitting them as they thought they might. And anywhere there between January and kind of going into March is then the Black Friday for our industry. People want transformation. They want to invest in themselves. They want to get big results in whatever area it is in their life. So I wanted to preface this episode by hopefully just motivating you and inspiring you to really have a crack at it this quarter. Okay, don't waste this time. What I said to my clients on this call that we did a couple of days ago is I said, don't use Q1 to just plan and prepare for Q2. Don't do that. Use Q1 to go out there and take aggressive, relentless action towards your goals with a plan to make sure that you actually come out of Q1 with potentially even one of your most profitable months of the year, as opposed to just starting to tinker with a plan and hope that Q2 will pick up. Because ultimately what will then happen is you've created a rhythm for your year, and your Q2 will look like your Q1. And Q3 will look like your Q2, and you'll be right back at the end of a year again wondering why you didn't hit your goals. So let's change that. How are we going to change that? Well, we're going to change that by doing 3 things right here, right now. The first is we're going to set targets and we're going to make a plan. And then there's 2 other things that we're going to do after that. But we'll start with this one. If you're somewhere right now where you can take notes, I'd highly suggest that you do that. Grab a pen and write down as much of this as you can. When we're thinking about setting our goals for the year to come, or the next month or 2 that we're about to roll into, I want you to think about your goals and your business function in 4 parts. The first is your revenue target, second is sales, third is marketing, and 4th is delivery. And then we actually have a bonus 5th as well, which is time management, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to run you through the exact exercise I took my clients through. So First thing is revenue. Now, we're not talking about cash in bank. We're not talking about profit. We're talking about revenue generated for new business. And I want you thinking about what the target is for your revenue. So let's say you're listening to this episode as soon as it launched, okay, early January. Well, I want you to think about, by the end of Q1, where are you wanting your business to be? What is the monthly revenue that you're ideally shooting for when we get to the end of March, for example? We're not looking into Q2. We're not looking to Q3, not looking to Q4. There's nothing wrong with annual planning. There's nothing wrong with putting an annual budget together. These things are actually quite helpful. But for this exercise, we're just focusing on Q1. Where do you want to be in 2 to 3 months, monthly revenue? There's 2 rules to picking this number, okay? The first rule is that rather than just picking an arbitrary number, we do want to pick something that's realistic and achievable, right? We may not know how to do it yet. It's a bit of a stretch target, but it's not so up in the clouds, right? What you don't want to do is say, I've been stuck at 5,000 a month. I get one 5K client every month, and I've been stuck there for 4 years. But John, I'm going to follow your guidance here. I'm setting my target. We're going for 100K a month by the end of Q1. Well, that's not really that realistic. It's not achievable. We need to just have a bump from where you are right now. That's a bit of a stretch target, but we could make a plan to get there. Okay, that's the first rule. Now, the second rule, I already mentioned it, which is that for now we're focusing on Q1. So you might be listening to this podcast right now. You're waiting for your first client to land. It might be that you're already at 20K a month and you're looking to get to 100K a month. It might be that you're already at 100K a month. You're looking to get to the next level. Just for the sake of this example, let's just go with 20K a month. You're in the early stages of your business. You're trying to get to that first 20K a month. Okay, great. We've set the number. So that now acts as the goal. Now, most people stop there. They go, my goal is I'm finally going to hit that XYZ month. But then there's no plan to get there. So what we have to do is we have to at least start to plan out what are the functions of sales to help make that happen. What's the function of marketing to help make that happen? And then, of course, we think about delivery, as I mentioned, and also time. So let's break this down. We've got 20K a month. If you're making notes, you're going to just write down sales now. And sales has 3 core things we need to think about. One is something that we position, 2 are functions. So the thing we position is, well, how much are we charging per client? In other words, what's the value of a client? When a client signs up with you, how much are they worth to you? So we need to just define that number and have that, on our sheet. And then the 2 functions are, how many clients do we need to hit that goal? So how many sales do we need to make in the business? The sales function. And then how many prospects do we need to generate and start to speak to land a client, right? So that's what we're looking at in sales. Value per client or price per client, similar thing. Number of clients to hit that monthly target. And then how many prospects do we need to generate those sales? Now, we'll circle back on an example of these numbers in just a moment. But next, we're going to move to marketing. There's 2 things that you want to write down under marketing. Number of leads required. And again, it's all so that we can feed the next function. So how many leads required to generate X amount of prospects that would, of course, turn into X amount of clients. And then prior to leads, it's visitors or clicks. How many visitors do we need? So that's kind of it for now. We're going to pause there for a moment before we even talk about delivery and time management. And we now have an equation that we can start to fill in, that we can see a path, we can see a plan emerging for hitting our target. I'll give you an example. And this is a number that I shared with my clients that can just act as a benchmark for you when you start to plan this out. So let's start with 1,000 visitors, okay? 1,000 visitors to my websites, my business, my funnel, whatever the case may be. We would, eyeballing it, knowing that it's slightly different for different industries, we would be looking at a visitor to lead conversion rate at about 20%. So 1,000 visitors hit our funnel page. There's an opt-in. We're going to expect 20% to opt in and become a lead. So that 1,000 visitors turns into 200 leads. I told you that you're going to want to have a pen and paper out for this part. 200 leads. Now we need leads to prospects. Now I'm going to be very, very conservative and very fair to the numbers right now. And I'm going to say that 5% of leads become prospects. Many of you will experience much more than that. But of course, you're watching this or listening to this right now, and you are using all sorts of different funnels. Some of you are using VSLs. Some of you are using webinars. Some of you are going through lead magnets. Some of you are going direct to book a call with you. So there's a whole variety of stuff going on. And then there's the initial exposure to the invitation to book a call and become a prospect, for example. But then there's the follow-up and all sorts of other stuff. So let's just assume 5% to be really, really fair. So that means of 200 leads, we're going to generate around 10 prospects. Okay. Now, prospect to client. Again, some of you are going to be higher, some of you are going to be lower, but let's just work with a 20% conversion rate. Okay. You've got 10 interested prospects. We're going to want at least 2 of those to close, 2 of them to become a client. So from 10 prospects, we've got 2 sales, and our program is $10,000. So we need 2 sales at 10,000 to hit the 20K a month. So of course, I'd already worked that out. I knew those numbers were going to land that way. What you can do is massage these numbers a little bit and go, okay, well, what is my goal? My goal is 50,000 a month. And how much am I charging per client? How many clients do I need to hit my monthly target? How many prospects would I need to land that many clients? How many leads would I need to get that many prospects? And how many visitors would I need to get that many leads? That's the equation that we're trying to work out. Now, if you've already got access to data, meaning your business is already functional, and you know what your lead to prospect conversion rate is and your prospect to close conversion rate is, then you can use your exact numbers to work this out. If you don't have those already, you can use what I've just shared with you as something of a benchmark. Now, once you start to get your business moving, you're taking action, you're doing active marketing stuff, and you're getting some visitors coming in that are potentially turning into leads and so on and so forth. Once we get a sample size coming through, there's 2 things we can do. Number 1, we can revise this plan based on the real numbers that we're experiencing now, because it's going to ebb and flow. Or the second thing that we can do is that we can improve upon the numbers we're experiencing at these different levels. So it might be that the results you're experiencing are pretty good. They're quite close to what I've offered you here as a starting point, but slightly different. Then just tweak this so that your plan is still accurate. Or you might say some of these are way off from what John said it was going to be. So I need to do some work on that particular part of my process and improve it. So with that, we now are closer to a plan to achieve the goal. We've got the revenue goal, but we actually can see the path to get it done, which makes it so much easier for us to then set some actions to make that happen, which we'll do a little bit later on. But then we also want to talk about time management, and delivery is in here a little bit as well. Okay. Something that I don't think people think about enough is this idea that, okay, we've got marketing that needs to happen to get sales opportunity, to land clients, and then of course deliver for those clients. Are you working out how you're going to divvy out your time? Or are you just going to continue hustling and until you're burning out and you're not even really focused on the right things at the right time in the right way? So what I'd want you to think about is, let's set a goal, let's set a target and a plan for how many hours you want to be working. So per week, perhaps if you're doing this full time and it's your business, then 50 hours a week, perhaps, might be for you 60, 70 if you're really enjoying what you're doing. But let's just say it's 50. That would give you 200 hours a month, give or take. So with 200 hours, we've got 4 things that we need to fill that time with. The first is how many hours out of the 200 that you are willing to work. And if you work more than that, it's dripping into your lifestyle. You're unwilling to do that. So 200 hours. How many hours are you going to be selling? Now, I'm going to use the plan we just mentioned above. We're looking for 10 prospects. Again, I'm going to be really fair and say, let's assume it takes 3 hours per prospect, right? It might only take 1, might take 2, but we're speaking of 10 prospects, it takes 3 hours per prospect. So 30 hours goes on selling. You could even add a little bit of flex there and call it 50. Imagine you got loads of follow-up and people ghosting you and whatever the case may be, but 30 to 50. The second thing is how many hours are you going to be doing marketing? And I emphasize doing because I'm not just saying, if I just say how many hours you're going to spend marketing, some of you confuse that to learning about marketing. So you're on YouTube, you're listening to this podcast right now, you're thinking about marketing, and that feels like you've ticked the box on your day. I spent 3 hours on marketing today. No, you didn't. You spent 3 hours learning about marketing. You didn't do it. So you actually need to allocate a percentage of your time that's actually doing the thing, producing content, posting content, recording ads, checking in on your ads, seeking speaking opportunity, like actually doing the marketing. How many hours? Well, you need to be spending at least, if you're doing this full time, 2-3 hours a day just marketing, doing the thing, right? So 2 hours a day over a month, 40 hours, maybe 50 or 60 if you're doing 3 hours a day. So let's call it 60. Then we've got delivery. How many hours are you spending delivering for your customers and clients? We need to factor that in, because otherwise we're going to get stuck at a scaling ceiling because we were growing too fast and then realized that we can't possibly deliver to all the clients that we're generating. And so something's got to change here. And so I don't know what that number is for you. Let's say it's 20 hours a month delivering, because the example we've just given is with 2 clients only. So maybe you're spending 10 hours with each client over the course of a month, give or take. The fourth is then miscellaneous. Now, if you wanted to, you could get even more granular and really break this up. And those of you that are a bit more analytical, perhaps you'd want to do that. But miscellaneous is going to be all the other stuff. You know, it's your time spent learning and watching and listening to podcasts like this, and reading books and watching video courses and involved in coaching programs. And, when I was doing this call with my Momentum clients, the example was being involved in Momentum and actually following the guidance and doing the stuff. That's learning. Maybe there's meetings. We've all got meetings. So you've got some time for meetings. That's fine. Admin. There's admin tasks. All of that can just get wrapped up in miscellaneous. How many hours is left over for miscellaneous stuff? Now, again, you can massage these numbers. How can you spread your time so that you're doing the things that need to get done so that you can achieve the numbers in the previous step so that you can hit the goal? If we do this, we're getting much closer to a plan. Now, if you're listening to this and you've got a team, then of course, now we're talking about how many hours selling, but that's actually you specifically because you've got a team that you're overseeing. So it might be that now you start to replace one of these numbers that we're working out here with oversight. How many hours a month do you have oversight over your team? You've got people selling for you, you've got people doing marketing, you've got people delivering for you. So how much time do you spend specifically in meetings and coaching and doing the stuff to oversee the people that are doing the stuff? That will fill your week and your month more, but now you've got less time specifically doing the stuff. So really important that we're figuring this out. So that was just step 1. Don't forget, we've got 3 things we're going to be doing right now. That was just step 1. Again, we set the goal. Then we decide what are the numbers I would need to achieve, what are the targets at each step to make that goal happen, and then how am I actually going to be just starting to think about my time allocation to make sure that those things can actually get done, right? So now we're going to move on to step 2, and that is defining the actions and setting dates. Because it's all well and good saying, okay, I want to achieve X number of visitors, to get X number of leads, to get X number of prospects and land my clients. But how exactly are you going to do that? You need a plan. You need very specific intentions and actions. And then we need to put those actions in your diary, literally put them on your calendar. So I'll give you an example. If you're going into the new year here, going into Q1, or whenever you're listening to this podcast, you're about to go into Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever it is. How's your offer doing? Is your offer the thing that's holding you back? It needs some work. You haven't priced it correctly. It's, the deliverables need to be ironed out, whatever the case may be. Then you cannot achieve the numbers we've set out above if you don't have an offer that you can sell. So that's the starting point. So stop watching loads of videos about running meta ads and webinar presentations and sales and all this other stuff, because all that's doing is just creating a buffer between you and actually implementing the first vital step to even get any of this moving. So you put a date in the diary. Maybe it's 7 days from right now. You say, do you know what? In 7 days, I'm going to have my offer launched. No plan B. So by this date, I can start accepting clients. You set the intention and you put it in your diary. Inside of my momentum coaching, we do these things called sprints now, where it's like when a client is in our program, if there's any one of these things that they need to focus on, so for example, the offer, we do what's called an offer sprint. And so clients within our program sign up to be a part of the offer sprint. And that just means that there's a week in the month where we are all focused on getting our offers sorted. And it's a mixture of a few live calls with a bit of homework. Then we come back, we check in, we see how that's going. We give feedback, and then we go back, we revise, we meet again. And by the end of the week, every single one in that little sprint has got their offer ready to go, you know? So for our clients, it's more helpful because they can just literally put the dates in the diary. I'm going to join the offer sprint. So then by that date, my offer will be ready to sell, and away I go. But it's so important that these things are actually going in the calendar. It might be that you're going to be planning your second offer, your additional offer. Maybe you want to do a live event, you know, whatever your offers are and the key things that you've got to put them in the calendar. Maybe you are wanting to launch that ad. It's on YouTube or Meta or LinkedIn, whatever it is. You've set the intention, put it on the calendar. There's something really powerful about not just having the idea, I'm going to launch my ads this year. I'm going to launch my ads this month. I'm finally going to launch my ads, you know, this week. This is all open to interpretation, and you have very little accountability. So if you just don't do it, no one really knows. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that your business isn't growing. So if you just say, do you know, I'm looking at my month now. On the 14th of this month, I'm going to launch my ads. No plan B, I'm going to launch my ads. That means that on the 13th, the 12th, the 11th, the 10th, the 9th, I'm going to allocate those days for preparation. So they go in the calendar too, preparation, so that on that date, I launch the ad. It might be the same for content. Maybe you've had this plan for the longest time. I'm going to launch my YouTube channel. I'm going to start uploading content. Okay, let's turn it from this kind of fist movement that I keep doing, which sounds weird if you're listening to this on the audio version. But now we actually need to set a date, set the intention. You need to go, I'm going to launch my ad there. And we've changed it from a feeling to a that's going to get done. Now, we may not always hit these dates, okay? We might have to shift them. But at least now, here's the cool thing. A bit like those little puzzle games that you may have seen where there's like a gap and there's different shapes and you've got to keep moving your thumbs up and down to move the shape around to get it in position. We can do the same thing with our calendar. It's like we've put the stuff on there now. So we're not going to remove them, but we are just going to maybe shift them around. So, hey, I thought I was going to launch my ad by the 14th. I'm now the 13th and it's just not looking possible. No problem. You're going to shift that a couple of days forward perhaps. But it shifts, it doesn't get removed. Really, really important. Anyway, the same is true for everything else. All right, I'm just giving you examples here, but, you know, getting that webinar presentation done. You know, we have webinar presentation sprints in our program. We have launch ad sprints and all this type of stuff. You know, is it the funnel? Get your funnel finally out. Is it email marketing? You know, you're going to do that campaign to your list. If so, when? Put the date in. How many emails over what period of time? Get it all in the calendar. What I want you to do out the other end of this exercise is I want you to be able to look at your next, you know, month or 2 or 3, and I want your calendar to look full because you've got all of the actions in there that you know is going to help you to achieve the numbers you just set, that's going to help you to achieve your goals. If we just set the big goal and our calendar looks empty and we're just kind of winging it as we go, it's almost certain you will not hit that goal because the goal will not just appear. You have to do the actions to make it happen, all right? Then the third and final thing is and again, this is more relevant to you if you're listening to this when we start a fresh year, but you can still do an audit in the same way of your most recent period of time. But stop and reflect on the previous year, okay? Stop and reflect and actually learn from how the past year just went, or the past quarter if you're doing this exercise quarterly, which I tend to do as well. I want you to pick up on your own clues. What went well? What didn't go well? What was a hit? What was a miss? I want you trying to figure out all of the clues from your previous year. Were there ways in which you've limited yourself? If you're honest with yourself, you've had some mindset issues. You've had some limiting beliefs. You've had some imposter syndrome. You've had some different things that you just know and you look back, it's held you back. okay, then we need to be honest about those things so we can start to work on those habits and behaviors and the way we operate so that we can have a better year this year. Otherwise, we're just going to roll straight in with the same habits. If you intended to launch something and you didn't launch it, let's not just go, right, I'll launch it next year. No, let's go back and reflect. Why didn't you launch it? Like, what was the we got to get clear on this. You said you were going to launch something. You didn't launch it. Why? Are you lacking confidence? Did you feel ill-equipped? You didn't have the right tools? You had the wrong people around you? You kept getting distracted? Is it different habits? We've got to figure out why you didn't launch it so we can identify and we can do it better next time. Maybe life's changed for you and your working schedule didn't move on. Perhaps there's a certain time in the day when you work better. Maybe it used to be mornings, early mornings, you would do your best work. But you haven't factored in that now you've got a growing family, you've got some kids now, so your sleeping habits are different, and you've got kids to get ready in the morning, and so it's just not quite what it used to be. Let's just assess the year, because at least if we can assess the year, we can see what things need to change. What was a hit? What was a miss? Maybe look at your marketing. What marketing campaigns did you launch that really popped off? Why? Why did they do well? What was it about the messaging that seemed to resonate with the market? What stuff did you do that didn't hit? It was a miss. Well, why was it a miss? Start to pick up on it. Let's compare side by side. A piece of content that you posted that got loads of likes, loads of content, comments, loads of engagement, maybe some prospects. And then another piece of content that you posted on the same account the previous month or the month after, and it didn't pop off at all. Put them side by side. What was it? Let's pick up on some clues. Was it the hook? Was it how I said what I said? Why I said it? Like, let's pick up on as much as we possibly can from your previous year. And let's allow that to then inform our decisions moving forward. All right. Now, off the back of this, I want you to do 3 things. Number 1, what are you going to stop doing? Okay. What were you doing last year that when you assess it, you think that wasn't working, that wasn't helping me, that wasn't fruitful, it wasn't beneficial, I'm going to stop doing it. Number 2, what are you going to keep doing? What's either working right now, or it's starting to show some signs of promise, or you're committed to that particular action. So for example, you're posting on your YouTube channel. It's not taking off yet, but it's a part of your strategy, so you will keep doing it, right? Because you're relentless in your pursuit of getting that YouTube channel to pop off. So that's keep doing. And you might have already guessed it. The third and final is what are you going to start doing? All right. What didn't you do last year that you know you need to do? What did you say you were going to launch that you didn't launch? Let's set the intention for the actions you're going to start doing. That's going to be different. This might seem simple and it might seem second nature to some of you because you're already doing this, and that's great. For others of us, we just simply don't do this. And this is the reason why we have a repeat of the previous year, because we haven't assessed and learnt from what went well and what didn't go well the previous year, so we can have a different year. Every year should be different. Our actions, the way we think, the way we make decisions, like all the stuff that we do, it should look different. Unless you've had the best year of your life, and then you're probably going to learn more about what went well so that you can replicate it again. But there'll still be little things that you can ditch. You can still find the misses and ditch those. All right, so that was the exercise that I took my clients through. I hope that's helpful for you. I hope that sets you up better for your year, your next quarter, your next month. I hope there's some big takeaways for you in there. I've mentioned my momentum coaching program a couple of times. There might be a link in the description box to whatever platform you're listening to this. We have cohorts that we open every now and again, so we may have one opening up sometime soon. Thanks for listening to the Expansion Podcast. Great to have you here, and I look forward to having you again for the next one.